Today, we are diving into one of the oldest, and I mean oldest, questions in philosophy. It's a question that Aristotle tackled more than 2,000 years ago. And his answer? Well, it didn't just give us a new idea. It gave us a completely new way to think about reality itself. So yeah, let's get into it.
It all boils down to this, just three simple words. What is there? I mean, what actually exists? Seriously, take a second. If someone asked you to list everything that exists, where would you even begin?
Now, this isn't just some little thought experiment. This is the most basic question in metaphysics. And the guy who first gave it a really systematic, thorough shot was Aristotle. His approach was so revolutionary that we are, quite literally, still arguing about it today. So how in the world do you start to answer a question like, what is there? Well, Aristotle's big idea was to create a kind of cosmic inventory, a complete list of all the fundamental kinds of things that make up reality. The fancy term for this is a system of categories, and the goal is just wildly ambitious, right? To create one single definitive list of the highest kinds of things. If you could pull that off, you'd basically have a blueprint for the entire universe. And this is the key to understanding Aristotle. He wasn't just playing a word game. He wasn't just organizing concepts in his head. As the scholar J.L. Ackrell puts it, Aristotle was a realist. He believed he was discovering truths about the actual stuff of the world, the non-linguistic items. He was trying to carve reality at its actual joints. All right, so what did this cosmic inventory actually look like? What were these fundamental building blocks of reality according to Aristotle? You know, his method was actually kind of beautiful in its simplicity. He realized you can uncover these basic categories just by asking different kinds of questions about a thing. So you point to a horse and ask, what is it? The answer you give describes its substance. You ask, how big is it? The answer is a quantity. See? Each type of question reveals a different fundamental slot in reality. And that process led him to his famous list of 10 categories. At the very top, you've got substance. That's the thing itself, like a person or a horse. Then you have all the other ways of describing that thing. Its quantity, its quality, like being white, its relation to other things, where it is, its place. A date, its posture, like sitting, its state, like having shoes on, and finally a pair, what it's doing, action, and what's being done to it, passion. For Aristotle, pretty much anything that exists has to fit into one of these 10 buckets. But here's the thing. These 10 categories were not all created equal. In Aristotle's view, one of them was the absolute bedrock, the foundation for everything else. And he says it himself right here. If the primary substances did not exist, it would be impossible for any of the other things to exist. Just think about it for a second. You can have a horse, a substance, that isn't white. But you can't have whiteness just floating out there in the universe by itself. It has to be the whiteness of something. So a great way to think about it is that substances are the fundamental hooks of reality. Everything else, all those other 9 categories, are just features that hang on those hooks. No hook, nothing to hang the qualities, quantities, and actions on. It all falls apart. Now, for hundreds of years, Aristotle's realist project was the main game in town. But then, philosophy took a massive turn, a turn inward, away from the world out there and toward the mind that's looking at it. And the person who really spearheaded this turn was Immanuel Kant. He came along and threw a wrench in the whole thing, asking this really skeptical question. How can we be so sure that these categories are actually in the world? How do we know we aren't just imposing our own mental framework onto the world? And this, right here, is the gigantic pivot. For Aristotle, categories are divisions in the world that our minds discover. For Kant, categories are structures in our minds that we use to organize the world. It's this huge shift from realism to what we now call conceptualism. Kant's big idea is that our minds come with a kind of pre-installed operating system. Things like substance or cause and effect aren't things we find out there. Nope. They are the software we are born with that allows us to make sense of any experience at all. Without them, the world would just be this buzzing, chaotic confusion. So this epic debate between Aristotle's realism and Kant's conceptualism, it brings us right into the modern problem. Is anyone ever going to agree on one single true list? Which leads to this really nagging puzzle.
if some of the most brilliant people in history have been trying to make a complete inventory of reality, why don't any of their lists actually match?
I mean, just look at this. Aristotle says the big divide is between a thing and its properties. But fast forward a couple millennia, and a philosopher like Chisholm says, no, the most fundamental split is between things that are contingent and things that are necessary. Then you've got others, like Hoffman and Rosencrantz, saying the real divide is between concrete and abstract things. They're all slicing up the same reality in totally different ways.
And that's because any system of categories, no matter how smart, runs into these killer problems. How do you know your list is actually complete? I mean, Aristotle himself gave slightly different lists in his other writings. Are you sure the categories don't overlap? And the real knockout punch, how could you ever prove that your list is the one, true, correct one?
Which leaves us with this final question. When we try to categorize everything, are we like Aristotle, discovering the true mind-independent blueprint of reality itself? Or are we more like Kant suggested, just projecting the architecture of our own minds onto the world? Basically, are we reading the map of the universe, or are we just drawing a map of ourself?